Hey everybody, it's James Vagley. Welcome to another episode of the MBA podcast. And in the black corner, I've got the man, the myth, the legend, Ash Plaisted. As always, with me, I assume you're wearing black. How are you going today, my friend?
I am definitely in black, traditional Melbourne winter black. That's where I am, folks, or near enough. I'm going well, James. How about you?
I'm very good. I'm very good. I'm not quite in black, but it looks black enough. It's slightly deceiving, the navy blue. So, listeners, hopefully you're doing well. It is July, and we have a theme for you for the next few weeks for the rest of July. We're talking about what we call elevate visibility. So, this is one of the 9 areas of our mortgage business blueprint, areas of business that you need to install to essentially have a successful business that is highly valued and can work with or without you. So elevate visibility is essentially about, well, getting known in the marketplace, right? And today we're talking about public speaking. And in brackets, I've got, it's not worse than dying, because Ash, we all know the statistic, we've heard it, or the quote that more people would rather be in the coffin than giving the eulogy, essentially, right? Like the fear over dying, it's worse. I wonder if it's still true.
I
Um,
think it is. I think it is. It's one of those inherent fears that I think, look, we all have it to some extent. I certainly have. I think it certainly when I was younger. And I think even people who are good at speaking on stage naturally, if you ask them, no, I'm so stressed and anxious. One of those things that for various psychological reasons, um, people avoid. They'll come up with any manner of outs to avoid having to speak to an audience. It's yeah, but it's a serious matter because I think overcoming it builds a lot of personal growth pathways. But I think particularly for the subject matter that we're focused on, elevating visibility and growing your brand and positioning yourself and opening up opportunities, it's a very powerful medium.
Oh, yeah, it's probably one of the most powerful. And I guess listeners, we're not here to talk about public speaking and whether it's worse than dying and all that sort of stuff. This is about why you should use it. And I guess we can start with the fact that no, it's not that scary. It's not that hard. And I guess going back, let's call it 20 years. No, let's go back a lot longer than that. I was always the shyest kid in school, and public speaking or even getting up in front of my class, I probably would have rather anything else, right? Like I was very shy as a kid. And then even when I started as a mortgage broker and got the opportunity to speak at small workshops about, teaching stuff about loans to potential property investors. And yeah, the nerves of standing up, even at those days in front of 15 people, was massive. Yeah, sweaty palms, worried, the nerves were running rife. And then you get up on stage and you do your thing and, it works well. And after a few times of doing it, you still got the nerves. And after 100 times of doing it, you still have the butterflies and the nerves. Um, and that's okay. That's normal, Ash. As you said before, like even some of the best rock stars and celebrities have those nerves and butterflies. It's normal and in fact a good thing. Um, but I guess the way I've overcome it before we get to why you should do this and how to do it is, well, I realized 2 things. Number one, I actually know what I'm talking about. When I was a mortgage broker, I could help those people, and now as a mortgage broker, coach and advisor, I know I can help these people. I know what's in my head as a broker and now as a broker coach can help those people. So I know, number one, I know more than them. And I can guarantee you, listeners, you know a lot more than your potential audience about loans and property and investing and saving money and all that sort of jazz. So that's number one. Remember, you know more than them. Uh, Number two, have fun with it. And the reason I just decide to have fun and be myself is because I sort of stopped. I realized that it's not that I stopped caring, it's that I stopped caring about what other people thought because they actually don't care. So, Ash, I'd love to get your opinion briefly on this in that when you're the speaker, everybody thinks, yeah, you've got dozens, maybe hundreds, maybe thousands of eyeballs on you, and that can be daunting. They're all looking at me. They're all judging me. They're all looking at me. That's the wrong way of looking at it, because really what they're doing is they just want information, and anything you've got for them is going to be great. I think people they build it up as more than what it actually is. Like, to stand in front of people and teach them stuff, they're not actually, they don't actually care about you. They're not judging you. They're just looking and open to information. That's the way I think about it, at least.
Oh, and if you swap or put yourself in as a member of the audience, right? It's one of the things I always found was helpful is when I'm at any public event. Now, it could be in a room, it could be on the sporting field, it could be at a family event, it could be with clients, whatever the situation is. When you put yourself in the audience, are you judging and critiquing and the person up on stage, whether they're fantastic or nervous or excited or knowledgeable? No, you're not. I'm not. It's like you're just listening to what they're saying. Hopefully, you get something good out of it. Oftentimes, you're distracted and thinking about other things. So when your roles are reversed and you're the one doing the talking and not the listening, just keep that in mind. That people are not judging and critiquing you, and even if they were, it's none of your business anyway. What do they say?
Yeah,
People think of you as none of your business. Um,
correct.
so, and I understand that's a bit of a glib line to put out there. And I think it does take a bit of practice. Like we spoke about last week, preparation is important. But I think that's a good segue to go to, why consider using public speaking, James. And maybe I almost split public speaking now post COVID. I split it into at least a couple of categories. There's face-to-face public speaking and there's virtual public speaking, right? Because I think there's equal amount of public speaking is done virtually now through webinars and live presentations as is done face-to-face.
Oh, it would have to be. There's probably there's probably more opportunities online. And I guess the good thing for listeners is what we'll talk about from now on as to why to do it, how to do it, what you should talk about. It doesn't really matter if it's online or face to face. It's just the medium that works. So for me, it's the same strategy. It's the same stuff you'll talk about. Some people might find live in person easier. Other people, like me, find online easier. What do you find easier, Ash?
I must admit, I'm tempted to say online, but I actually prefer live face to face. Keeps me on my toes and focused better, actually.
Hmm.
I enjoy online. I think there's a lot of merits to the simplicity, the convenience, and the efficiency and the scalability of online is brilliant. But as far as what I personally enjoy the most, face to face, because you really get to connect with people. And me, being an introvert, I know you are too, James, and I think a lot of our listeners are. I prefer connecting with people through body language and physical cues as well. And you
Mhm.
can't do that online, whereas you can do that when you're in person.
Yeah, that's actually a very good point to make uh, before we get into some of the why and the how, in that although face-to-face and virtual, you will talk about similar things, the delivery is quite different. And maybe we can talk about that towards the end, the difference between face-to-face and virtual, because we've done lots of them. I'd like to touch on, for our listeners, we've listed public speaking. It's a key strategy to elevate visibility. So the why to do this is pretty straightforward. It's a little bit like becoming an author. If you're an author and there's a book with your name plastered on it, the credibility and authority is implied and elevated much, much faster. If it's you versus any other mortgage broker, no matter how many years experience and letters after their name, if you have published a book, you're above them instantly. That's just how perception works with books. Speaking is the same. We all grew up, we went to school, and whether you went to university or any other education, what happens in those environments? We look to the front of the room, to the person talking, the teacher, the person and we put all of our, I guess, attention on them, and we think of them as having all the answers. So if we want to generate leads and partners and grow our mortgage business, one of the key things we want to do, of course, is separate ourselves from other people, become an expert, be seen as an authority. And one of the fastest ways to do that is speak on stage, whether it's real or virtual. Now, we all know the why to do it, but two big questions I would get from brokers is, well, how do I get these gigs? Like, do I host my own events online or virtual? How do I possibly go and speak at other people's webinars or events? And what would I speak about? They're probably the two biggest questions, you think. Ash, can you think of any others that we get from our members?
Well, yeah, just to zoom out a little bit, I think one of the questions that I hear a lot is why do it? And I think it's an important question. It's like some people naturally maybe like the attention. I guess extroverts, and I mean that with no judgment. That's just the nature of the beast. But I think for most people, it needs to be understood how it fits strategically into what you're trying to build. So that's number one is, why do public speaking, positioning, authority, celebrity status, to create what I like to call a trail of breadcrumbs. So you start to create a trail of breadcrumbs pointing to you as a subject matter expert, for people to want to talk to, for people to want to be around, for people to want to hear from. So that's building that trail of breadcrumbs. And the other thing you said that I think is super critical is to speak about something that you're passionate about. So for me, there's two types of public speaking in that regard. There's what I forget what that TV show used to be called, James, where they had four people on stage and they'd be given a subject matter off the cuff. They had to act it out on stage. Now, to me, that is what's it called? It was an English show. I forget what it's called,
I
but
forget.
super difficult. So that being asked to speak off the cuff about something you don't necessarily know anything about, that that would be really challenging. So speaking about something you're passionate about and that you have knowledge about and that you can speak about from the heart and the mind, that's really the key for me. Is finding
Hmm.
things that you enjoy talking about, you have knowledge about, um, and if you can do that, uh, it comes from an authentic place. And I think that's one of the things that most people, it's like recording videos. A lot of people struggle with is feeling they've got to try and present a certain image on videos, or they've got to present a certain version of themselves public speaking. And as you said, the sooner you come to the realization just to be yourself and talk about what's important to you, and hopefully it's important to your audience, the better off you'll be. Right, being authentic when speaking is one of the key lessons, in my opinion.
Oh, it sure is. Yeah, that's one of the easiest ways to get over that fear is to go, I'm gonna go up on that stage, real or virtual. I'm just gonna be myself and I'm going to help them and have something to say. I love the fact that you brought that up. Like, when we talk about what do you talk about in your presentations, I can probably say that 99.9% of our listeners, if they've tried speaking before, they all talk about the exact same thing on a webinar or on a stage. Structuring loans, policy, how to get a good rate, what the process is, all of that sort of stuff. And it's kind of fine, but I think very few have anything real to say. Like all of you listeners, like you're all special, you're all unique, you all have something to say. So go up and say it. Like, you genuinely want to help people. You genuinely want to help them get from A to B. So don't just go up and use a generic cookie cutter presentation and talk about loans and structures and draw houses. Like, think about who you are and what you want to say. A good example of this, Ash, there are some really well-known figures online. We don't need to name names because this applies to all of them. Listeners, do the same. Think about in business, you no doubt you would follow people, whether it's on Facebook or Instagram, LinkedIn, your social medias, right? And you'll see their videos and their stories and their posts daily, weekly, whatever it is. Think about that person or those few people you see all the time. And you probably think, how do they come up with all this stuff? There's so much content, there's blah, blah, blah. You know what the secret of those people is typically if you deconstruct what they do, they're not talking about more than three core things. Like they might have 1,000 pieces of content, but they all talk about the same three core messages. And I think if you're a mortgage broker and you want to know what you should talk about, well, number one, ask your audience what they want to know. Number two, recognize, put yourself in their feet, in their shoes, and go, where am I? Where would I love to be? And what information would inspire and motivate me to get there? And as a broker, as a teacher, or someone looking to help them, how do I condense that into one or two or three core messages that all of what I do revolves around? I think that's really important. Have something to say. You only have to have one or two core things to say.
Yeah, yeah. Look, that's super important, and I hope everyone's sort of extracting some core nuggets out of this. Why you should use public speaking, a bit of a cadence. You don't need 1,000 new and completely independent topics to talk about. It's really two, three, or four topics, as you said, James. And you wrap personal stories around it. You wrap case studies around it. You can generate a lot of stuff to talk about around it. You got to remember too, I think, that one of the things I used to struggle with a little bit with whether it's public speaking, virtual speaking, videos, is each time you do something, you feel like you've got to talk about something different and unique all the time, forgetting that each time you do it, it's probably to a different group of people. So it's one of the things I admire about great actors, performers, speakers is they can give the same speech over and over and make it feel like it's the first time they've done it every time because they've learned it's to a different audience, right? So just get over yourself. It's a different audience, right? Keep telling the
Yeah.
same story over and over to a different audience. You don't need a different story every time. Of course, there may be situations where that's applicable, but so I really like that point. But for me, why do it? I truly think this, particularly in the competitive industry, where competition is tough, and you're winning business, you're winning partners, and you want to stand out. Well, I think given all other things being equal, rates, products, services, what's the defining factor that any given party might lean on to choose you over someone else? It's generally your level of profile, generally.
Mhm.
I don't know what you think, James, but I think it's generally your profile. Have they heard of you before? Have they seen you speak? Are you positioning yourself as a subject matter expert? If you've got some content, some public speaking out there, when you go to talking to business connections and people about doing business together, all other things being equal, if you've got the higher profile, you'll get the gig.
Yeah, I think this is one of the biggest missed concepts or strategies in mortgage broking and business in general, is that everybody is so focused on being a good technician and providing great customer service that they forget to play the perception game. And what you said before is perfect in that, and I guess I said at the start too, with the book analogy, like all things being equal, and to be fair, pretty much everything is equal, the person with the higher status and celebrity will always win. So, and it's not that hard to elevate yourself to celebrity, especially through strategies like public speaking. One more really important thing to mention, Ash, and it's on the why to do this. As a mortgage broker, growing a mortgage business, one of the key things, of course, is, well, we need more people to talk to, right? If we're going to write more loans and grow a business, we need more people to talk to. And yes, we need to set systems and team to make sure we can help those people without burning out. But you got to get a lot more people to talk to, right? So one of the things I love about public speaking is not only does it give you an opportunity to talk to a lot more people, but it gives you the opportunity to do that one on many. So instead of, there's two points here. Instead of having to have the exact same conversation one-on-one with 100 people, you can have that conversation once.
Yeah.
And then the next conversation you have with all those people is already the step 2 conversation. Most brokers are having the step 1 conversation with everybody and the step 2 conversation with everybody. public speaking and running events and speaking on stage essentially eliminates that first step. You've already done it. Like imagine walking into a client meeting and not having to talk about why use me, what's the process, what we're going to do, etc., and getting straight into the specifics. So that's why I love it. And the second one is the concept of intent. So if we think about a scale of 0 to 10, like 0 being not going to do anything at all, and 10 being red hot prospect. Most businesses and brokers as well are working with people in the 0 to 5 range a lot. Yeah, I'm interested in saving money. Maybe I'll look at buy a property. Maybe I want to become an investor. My intent is relatively low. And we know that once somebody gets up to a 7, 8, 9, 10, they're much more likely to want to use our services, right? So a lot of brokers are spending a lot of time one-on-one with people with not much intent, whereas public speaking and what you say on stage can take people from a 0 or a 1 or a 2 or a 3 to a 7 or 8 or a 9. And what that means then is not only do we have more people to talk to, we have more hot prospects to talk to because we've warmed them up. We've educated and motivated them to a 7 or 8 or a 9. And so then it makes our sales process and our meetings faster and easier. And then it makes our conversion rates at every step of the way much, much higher and easier. So there's so many reasons why I love public speaking, Ash, but that's just another big one I thought I'd throw in.
I think that's enough for everyone to take away, James. I love that you threw conversions in at the end because it's a really, ultimately for me, public speaking in all its different formats and stuff we've spoken about really is there to serve and ultimately a core purpose, and that is for you to grow your productivity, grow your business, grow your bottom line, right? That's ultimately where it feeds through to is how well you attract and convert opportunities is what this is all about.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, if you're just doing public speaking for the joy of public speaking, good luck to you. It's fine, right? Some people join Toastmasters and they just enjoy challenging themselves. Why did I climb the mountain? Because it's there. Why did I public speak? Because it's there. Fair enough. And that's great. But from a business perspective, it serves the purpose of attracting and converting more people at the end of the day.
Which is what we want. So public speaking, listeners, it's not worse than dying, not even remotely, obviously. Have something to say, be yourself, have some fun with it. You'll be fine. Put on your own events, go and speak at other people's events, put yourself out there, ask the question. If you want to know how to do this and how to come up with it, of course, come inside, knock on our door. We've got all the templates and the tools to help you do this. One-to-many strategy. So have a conversation because if you want to grow your business, this can be a key strategy. But until then, that'll be the end of this episode, I guess. And the next few weeks, we'll still keep talking about elevate visibility. And we've got some cool episodes coming up for our listeners, Ash.
Look forward to seeing more of our listeners and watchers speaking publicly very soon, James.
100%. Thanks, Ash. Listeners, hopefully you are well, wherever you are in the world. Have yourself an awesome week, and we'll talk to you again next week. See you soon.
See you next week, James.